Hello, everybody. I am sorry for the delay. I've had some technical issues with my internet this morning, but welcome and thank you for taking time on this Monday morning. I know Mondays can be crazy, they can be stressful. We're coming back from the weekend. Hopefully, you relaxed this weekend, rejuvenated and revived yourself, your mind, your body, because it can be hard at times for us to show up to work if we're not showing up rested and revived. I know I talk to you guys a lot about just self care. And lately, I have a confession. I haven't been focusing on my own self care like I should. And I woke up this morning and realized, gosh, I am so tired. It's only Monday. It's the first day of my week, and I am so tired. And I went into this weekend with the absolute intention of just nurturing myself, and I decided I am making zero plans, right? And that, you guys, is really hard for me. Anyone who knows me well knows that making no plans is really hard. It's really, really difficult for me. I have to know what I'm doing. I have to have a plan, right? And by the way, for those of you who don't know me, I'm just jumping right in without introducing myself. If you're new to our group, my name is Evelyn Knight. I am the child care business coach, the host of the podcast with that name. And I am the CEO and founder of Child Care Business Professionals, which is a company that helps owners and directors with things like this overwhelm, with helping you to learn the business end of things that can make your life not so demanding and not so overwhelming. I am also a child care center owner myself. So the things I teach are firsthand. And today, what I'm going to be speaking to is really for people in business. It doesn't matter if you're a childcare owner, director, you could be a stay at home mom, and you might be feeling a lot of the things I'm talking about right now. Our society has just created this culture that leaves us absolutely overwhelmed. We live in perpetual overwhelm, right? And so that's what I want to talk to you guys a lot about today and how we can overcome, right? And by the way, you guys, later in this month, and one of my team members can probably put the dates in the chat there, but I'm going to be doing an entire series on overwhelm for you, the 5 keys to overcoming overwhelm. And that's actually not the title. I just basically said that, but that's what the theme is going to be. So I have to look at me and my own life, right? Because I have to say, I am the guinea pig here all the time. The things that I bring to you, the things that I teach you, actually come from my own personal experiences and me being the guinea pig on what hasn't worked in life and what does work in life. So I know as a leader, you're exhausted. You are exhausted. I see you. I don't have to physically see you to see you. I know. As a leader myself, I lead 2 teams. As a child care center owner, as a mom, as just a professional person in general, I'm exhausted and I get it. And so this morning, it's funny because I have a list of things I'm going to talk to you guys about. And I knew today was going to be about overwhelm, but I really felt it this morning. And when I feel it, I have to go back and ask myself, why? What am I doing that is causing this, right? Because to be honest with you, I can blame my team all I want. I can look at my team and I can say, well, it's them. They're not doing this and they're not doing that, right? I can look at my son and, well, he's just overwhelming me. He's just exhausting me because he has so many demands, right? I can look at my workload. There's a lot of things I can look at. But bottom line is, I have to take accountability because I created it, right? I didn't have good enough boundaries at my childcare center, so my staff might be a little out of control. I am not putting really good boundaries with my son. So he thinks he can just walk all over me, right? Maybe if you're somebody who overspends, you might have a ton of credit card debt that you feel overwhelmed with, right? Things like that. So, what this morning I was looking and thinking, like, isn't that ironic? I'm talking about overwhelm today. At the end of the month, I'm teaching those 5 key elements of overwhelm that I know when I practice, I can absolutely gain control of my overwhelm, right? I've done it before. I do it all the time. But then I fall back into patterns of behavior that aren't healthy for me. And when I do, and I look and like this morning, waking up and feeling exhausted before I'm even out of bed, I know I have to pause and look at my life and look at my choices. And I have to question and ask myself, okay, what am I not doing? I know how to take charge of this. I understand, and I've living proof, I've lived it, that this is not how it has to be. So, what do I need to do to fix it? Right. And so, as I'm sitting there thinking about that, like, okay, what do I need to do to fix it? What do I need to do to fix the overwhelm that I have created? And that's like the key thing to remember is that we can control this, you guys. I think we so often feel like things are so out of control, right? We feel like things are out of control, which is why we feel overwhelmed. And we have to realize that we have got to stand up and take control. We have to, we have no choice. So last week, I had this thought, and I think I did a quick TikTok on it last week about how it I had a choice to make, and it was kind of a painful choice. And as I was making this choice, and it really honestly wasn't a choice. There was an action I had to take that I really didn't want to do. Because if you're like me, when you have to take some actions, whether it's to an employee, your own family, whatever, that you know is going to cause discomfort in them, it can actually be painful for us, right? It can be really painful to cause discomfort in someone else, right? So a lot of times we choose to keep the pain on ourselves instead of causing someone else discomfort, even though it's necessary and they earned it. So as an employer, last week, I had to make a decision and had to take some actions that I knew were going to be painful for another person, right? I knew there was going to be some tough love that had to happen. And this is someone I truly care about. So that morning, I was really just struggling and I didn't want to do anything about it. I really didn't want to move forward. But I had to ask myself, how's this working for you now? How is shoving this issue under the carpet, ignoring it, pretending like it's not there, how is it affecting you now? And I literally, this is a conversation I'm having with me. Okay. I had to ask myself, you are trying to avoid this bit of pain right now because you don't want to see this other person in a bit of pain today. But by avoiding this discomfort for you and her, what you're really doing is causing a lot more pain and suffering. You're choosing to avoid small discomfort today for greater pain tomorrow, right? And when I had that thought, it was just like, one of those things where you think and you just kind of stop in your track. And I remember I was actually getting ready, putting my makeup on, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and that popped into my head. And I just was like, oh my gosh. And I had to just look at myself. And I had to really have a tough conversation with myself saying, okay, am I choosing to avoid pain today? But is that pain today causing me a lot more pain tomorrow? So I want you to really sit with that. Is the pain that you're avoiding today causing you a lot more pain tomorrow? Right? So hard to do. And it could be in a lot of things. I had a colleague reach out and just really tired, really, really tired. And I think any leader out there, you guys, we've all had this thought, right? Where we all have a thought of, I'm just so tired. I don't want to do this anymore. After Ron died last year, there were many days that I had that thought that I just don't want to do this. I'm tired. I'm tired. When I was diagnosed with my neurological disease that I have, that was a huge one for me. Just like, I just want to quit. I just want to quit. Right. And I think we live in a world right now, especially if you're an early childhood education leader, where we feel this all the time, all the time. We just don't know how we're going to make it one more week. So if you are an ECE leader, and you're having that thought, I really want to challenge you and ask you, all this pain that you're in, the overwhelm that you're feeling, the exhaustion, what other pain are you avoiding today that is causing this overwhelm, that is causing this absolute exhaustion? That is the first thing to really look at, right? What are we avoiding? What do we not know? What knowledge do we have to gain? That is the other part of it. You may know that your staff is out of control, but maybe you don't know how to control them. Maybe you don't know how to get control back. Maybe your children at home are out of control and you don't know what to do. You're just at a loss. But all you know is you can't keep going on this way, right? You just know you can't. I'm going to speak to my fellow God girls out there. I'm a God girl. And right now, I want to speak to you because God is laying it on my heart that someone needs to hear this right now. I had this epiphany moment last week that, again, was so liberating for me. And I have to tell you, I've had a couple of very heavy, heavy, heavy weeks, very heavy. I've been exhausted just mentally and physically. And, there's things that happen no matter what, you guys. I know sometimes you look at me, I'm the childcare business coach. I have all these systems and everything in place, and I look like I have it all together. But life happens. It doesn't matter. I can have the best business, be the greatest leader that ever lived. It wouldn't matter. Life still happens and things still get really hard. Things beyond our control, right? They still happen that are really hard. And I've had a really hard last couple weeks and I was really tired. I mean, just not like today, I'm physically tired. I just did my nothing this weekend turned into way too much. I need a plan. Now I know I need a plan because I need to plan my nothing out instead of doing way too much because I had nothing on the calendar. Right. So I was mentally exhausted. And I was getting to the point where it's just like, how am I going to do this? I'm just going through the motions, but I'm mentally exhausted. Okay. So last week, I was just praying and like, God, what am I going to do? Yes, Sophie, so exhausted. So if you're a God girl, Sophie, this is for you because God really last week spoke into me just so blatant. And I just love it when he does this. It's amazing. It just makes me feel like the most special person alive when God is like, hey, look at me. Did you forget I'm right here? And so last week I had this thought, and it occurred to me that so many of you leaders out there are in the same boat as I was in, right? How many of you guys, tell me in the comments, how many of you are God fearing, God loving women or men? Even there might be some men. How many of you just know and say, God is in control of my business, right? Whether you're a director or an owner, how many of you just know that this is God's? And let me know in the chat if you can that yes, Eastgate's Kids Center says, yep, this is God's center, right? This is God's chakra center. And I know that God is going to lead the people who need to hear this message. Some of you I know may not believe the same thing, but God is really telling me that some of you need to hear this today. And I have to do what God tells me to do. So I was just in that place last week of I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore, God. And God said to me something that I was just like, "Oh my goodness." Again, right? This is like my week last week was epiphany after epiphany. There was actually two things. One morning I woke up and I literally hear like this voice telling me, "You're so focused on what you're walking into that you forgot who you're walking with. You forgot who is walking with you." And I was just like, "Oh my gosh. How can I do that? How many times is it going to take for me to learn my lesson? How many times am I going to face this mountain and try to climb it without the proper gear?" Right? And I'm going to get teary now. Sorry, you guys. But it just occurred to me, yes, you're right. I am. I am. I'm facing this mountain without you. I'm trying to lean on me for all the answers instead of looking to you to guide me. The day after that one, that was day 1 epiphany, where, I was realizing that I'm walking into this without him, and I'm so focused on this mountain in front of me that I forgot that the God who creates mountains is going before me. He's paving the way, right? The God who literally snapped a finger and the mountains of this world were put into existence. And with a snap of a finger, he could take them out. I had stopped looking at him and I'm trying to do this on me. Um, and so the second epiphany I had was even more powerful to me. And God asked me, "Who's the real CEO of your company?" And I just was kind of like, "What? What is that supposed to mean?" Like I'm the CEO. And I was like, "No, you're not. I am." And that was my second big aha moment last week. I was like, "Oh, I forgot." And I think we all say God runs this company, right? God is in charge here. God is the leader. But is he really? I want to challenge every single one of us to ask. Those of you who, I've seen the comments coming in like crazy that you guys are God centered programs, right? And I realized that I was treating my business like, yes, God owns it, but he's a silent partner. He just, he invested in it. He got things going, but he's a silent partner. He doesn't really get involved in the day to day. He's my silent partner. And then I had this epiphany that no, he's the boss. He's not a silent partner. He's not a silent partner unless I silence him. And I had this huge epiphany for both my companies that I'm not the CEO. I'm not the owner. I'm just an employee. I'm just an employee of a company that he put me to run, right? And one of the devotionals I was reading last week even said, when you have a problem, take it to the real boss. Take it to your boss. Don't take it to your brain. Take it to the real boss. And of course, I got that message on the day I needed it when I was facing something that I knew I wasn't strong enough to face, right? And on my own. And it was amazing because I just prayed and I said, "Okay, boss, what do you want me to do today? This is your company, not mine. I'm not the CEO. You are. And I'm just your employee." And this weight that had been so heavy on my shoulder for weeks was just lifted. It was just lifted instantly. And God just basically was like, "Yes, finally, finally, you're focusing on who's walking with you instead of what you're walking into. Finally, you recognize that you're not the boss. You're not the CEO. I am. Now, listen, I've already taken care of this. It's done. You don't even have to worry about it." So at that point, I was like, "Okay, great. Awesome. I don't have to worry." And in that moment, it was like it was gone. The anxiety, the worry, it just literally disappeared overnight. And for those of you who don't understand, if you're not a Jesus follower, it's really, I know it's hard, but it really is that easy. It really is. And I would, if you don't know and you've never experienced this, I would love to talk to you more about that. But it really is. I mean, once you realize, like, oh, God's got this, I don't need to worry about it. What am I so upset about? It really is. I mean, it literally feels like you could have been carrying the heaviest weights on your shoulder, and it just feels like he just grabs them, takes them, and pulls them right off of you, and they're just gone, just like that. And I don't know, realized with that whole thing of overwhelm, it's like, yeah, I'm causing my own overwhelm, aren't I? Because I'm not leaning on you. I'm not leaning on you. I don't have the strength to do the things that I need to do sometimes. I don't, but I don't have to. I don't have to. I don't have to know everything. I don't have to be strong enough. I don't even have to be enough, right? That word enough always coming to our mind. In our world today, we see all this I am enough, I am enough. And I love the song Gyra. If any of you guys know the song Gyra, I love it because I realize that song just is so amazing where he says that I am enough because you are enough. So, for those of you who are still on here listening, because I know I went on a huge God rant, who still made it through this and who are still here, and I've got so many comments today saying that you are God centered, and I know God is going to bring those of you who need to hear this to this video today. But know that the world might be telling us, oh, good, you were listening to the song this morning. The world might be saying, you are enough, and all those, it's just one of those catchphrases right now that's so catchy. But honestly, we are enough because He is enough. And we don't need to be enough. We don't need to be strong enough. So release that from your shoulders. You don't need to have the answers. You don't need to have a plan, right? Like me, I have to have a freaking plan for my weekends. I had so much anxiety this Friday because I was walking into Saturday with no plan. Like, come on, it's Saturday. Just, and my plans are usually to relax. I mean, my plan is to kayak and hike and, maybe get a massage, something relaxing and rejuvenating. But not having a plan at all is just like so much anxiety for me. And going into this week, some of the things that I had to face last week that were some of the biggest things I've ever faced in my career, I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. I don't have to be strong enough. I don't have to be enough of anything because He is enough. He is enough. He is the CEO of my company, not me. I don't have to be the boss. He's the boss, not me. Do you know how liberating it is to know that you don't have to be the boss? Do you know how liberating it is to know that the buck doesn't stop here? It stops there. Starts up there with Him, not here, not in my brain. It is here because He lives in my heart, right? So I really hope that helps somebody. Let's see. We have I put a tattoo on my foot this summer that says He walks with me for this reason. It's my tattoo, Psalms 91. And I put it on my arm here because I can always remember Psalms 91. For those of you guys, I highly encourage you to read it. But Psalms 91, 14 through 16 are my life verses. And I was going to put that as my tattoo. And it's kind of funny because God kept telling me, nope, Psalm 91 is your chapter. It's not just a life verse, you get a chapter. And Psalms 91 is my chapter. So it's tattooed there. So when I'm struggling and I just can remember all the time. It's kind of funny. Funny story about Psalms 91. There's a part in Psalms 91 where he talks about like the feathers, like he's talking about the eagles, right? And how the eagles' feathers come around. I can't remember how it goes right now. I'm just blanking. I'm sorry, you guys. But basically, one of the things that it always reminds me is in my mind, I just think feathers, 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 because I know and it's kind of silly, but I know that God wraps me in, and He talks like the wings of an eagle. I mean, I make it sound so different, but I just kind of imagine feathers because when He talks about the feathers like the wings of an eagle, right? But to me, for some reason, feathers got stuck in my head, and so when I see Psalms 91, I remind myself feathers. God wraps me in feathers, in His feathers, and I'm safe. And, if you think of like a feather pillow, it cushions you and it holds you and it just keeps you warm and it can just comfort you. If you've got enough feathers wrapped around you, it doesn't matter how many things are banging up against you, those feathers are going to just soften the blow, right? So instead of saying just punching you, it's just going to feel like a tap. And so when you let God's feathers just come around you and just protect you, and they provide you with that warmth and that comfort as well. So it's kind of funny that out of that whole chapter, what do I get? I get feathers. But it does remind me of that representation that we're not alone and we can do it. We can do it. And we can do it through His strength, not ours. And how lucky are we? How blessed are we? How many people out in that world don't get what we get? They got to go do this by themselves. They have to be enough, which they never can be. None of us will ever really truly be, right? But we don't have to be. We don't have to be because He who is enough is in us. So I hope that really helps somebody get through the day. That went on a totally different direction than I planned after I hit about the 10-minute mark there. But God basically told me somebody needs to hear this more than they need to hear what you were planning to say. So I hope that was helpful. And I hope for those of you who needed this today, that this message brought some peace to your week, to your life, and hopefully you can just really walk in this. Have a great week, everybody.